What's going on, guys? We were John C., Roseman, California. It's the May 24th, 2021. It is, if I can see through these damn dirty glasses here, 12:35 in the afternoon. Bit pissed off a little bit. It's one thing to keep hearing about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but there's another upcomer over here. Apparently, we're going to have to give this guy some more issues. Now, regarding Miss Green here. Miss Green shit. Some stronger words a lot of people are using for her, and she's gobbling it up. Regardless of whatever attention she's getting, both positive and negative at this point over here, her ego is being fed, and she's on a constant rampage. Anything regarding liberal media right now is going on a hate mongering at this point over here, while places like Fox News or anything else relates to conservatism or Trumpism are having an issue with liberal medias for jumping on her. And not to mention, they probably will be supporting Kevin McCarthy and this broad. You did hear me say that one, didn't you? Yeah, this is a sexist remark. I admit it. I've got an issue. Because everyone else has got the issue. Not just because everyone's got the issue. Because she's opened up herself at this point over here. She wants all the damn negative attention at this point over here. She wants to say, bring it on. I'm going to be the next Miss Donald Trump at this point. And she's giving herself that up. I mean, she's willing to become, well, there's a lot of disgusting words at this point over here. She wants to go for prostitution at this point. She's prostituting herself with the GOP and making sure that she is the, yeah, you're hearing me say the same thing. Because I probably get some flack on this one. Bring it on. She's bringing it on herself. She went after David Hogg right after the shootings at this point over here. David Hogg, a few years back, was at the Parkland, Florida high school shooting. Got shot up. Well, some people say, okay, fine, got it shot up at this point over here. A lot of death, a lot of mayhem, a lot of students freaking and shrieking over this damn shit. They couldn't even feel comfortable anymore. Anytime there's a shooting on a damn school campus. I hear the gun law shit going all over the place. I hear the politicians arguing left and right. Nothing gets done. Nothing. Hogg's been trying desperately these days, trying to navigate his way through the political system after the shooting. Even went over to Congress to testify in a subcommittee. Marjorie Taylor Greene was out there ambushing his ass, left and right. Apparently there was a spokesperson for him, trying to do some cover-up. Actually, some tail guarding, should I call it. But she still went on, spouting off there were actors. It was all fake news, all paid actors. There had been stuff talked about this for about 30, 40 years. All the same stuff. It's all been proven garbage, but they don't mind because they like garbage. They're worse than dirty laundry. A lot worse than that. There has been a lot of negative crap going on these days. And think of this. I'm still looking at, from not the political point of view at this point over here, I'm looking at the legal point of view. Trying to keep the television down a bit. Now, as I understand it, and basically I'm still a college student at this point over here, so there's a hell of a lot of law out there. But the gist, as I was taught concerning about political science, the First Amendment only protects you from any haranguement or anything coming from the government, whether it be local through federal, when it comes down for demonstrating or saying your mind, speaking your mind. Of course, the locals can limit you in ways. They're not stripping you of the powers. They're giving you like time, place, location. Place is location anyway. But giving you the opportunity of where and when. And if it's legal regarding paperwork. The local end is where you have to watch out for that one. The federal end, yeah, it's already been proven many times that we have the legal right to say so. In fact, there was a 1970 court case, Skokie versus Illinois, or actually Skokie versus the United States, somewhere in there. No, I take that back. I take that back. I take that back. Hold on. Because I remember that Skokie case. It was a national American party, the Nazi party. American Nazi party, the colloquial term for the damn thing is. And they were going against Skokie. And this one went all the way over to the Supreme Court. Now, basically, what it was, a hate group wanted to demonstrate and rattle the cages, and they successfully did so by going into a Jewish neighbor in Skokie, Illinois, to terrify the living crap out of it because they feel they can, they will, and they'll do it because they are right, they are white, and they didn't give a shit. The city tried to ban them, and there was a court case made that, okay, well, they can ban them because they were going against Jews, and this was being a racial situation. Now, if they had any race laws on the books, and they didn't, at least I didn't think so, then they would have done it. But there are certain aspects that they did raise up, and they stopped them at one level. The appeals court said, nope, you can't do this. You can't stop them. City of Skokie says, yes, we can. But the appeals court said, no, you can't. So the issue was raised all the way through the Supreme Court. It had to go through the levels. The Superior Court, Appeals Court, U.S. Supreme Court. Now, in certain areas, you would have the District Federal Court, then the Federal Appeals, and then Supreme Court. We're dealing with civil rights cases. That's what should have been in the first place here, but it didn't do that one. But even superior courts would have been raising up an issue like that in the first place. But since it went all the way to the Supreme Court were looking at the legal merits of the case. And because the group was still practicing their First Amendment rights, and they were going against the local government, they looked at the Constitution of the United States. And in there, it was government interfering with an individual or a group's rights for freedom of speech. And that's it. And they ruled for the American Nazi Party of that time. So it went back down to the lower courts. American Nazi Party felt empowered about this damn thing, and they tried it one more time. But the city said, no, we're not going to let you do it through this area. American Nazi Party would say, we have the right. Yes, you have the right, but we dictate where and when. You can do it over here, but you're not doing it over here. This is not fair. We don't give a shit. You're not spreading your hate over here. You can spread your hate over here, but you can't do it over here. But you're defeating the purpose. We have the right. You got the right, but we're telling you where to do it at and when. We're limiting you on that situation there because we have the power there, not here. Now, when it comes down for congressional, it's a different story altogether now, isn't it? Because this is getting to be more and more confusing at this point. When you have politicians going into office, they're going to do anything and everything they can to get in office, which means they gotta kiss babies while stealing their lollipops at the same time. And at this point, that means feed the egos and feed the beast out there. And the beast is all that rage and hatred and racism. The uglier side of our humanity. And because Donald Trump had pushed the button on that one, because other politicians have tried and actually succeeded throughout the 60s, actually throughout decades, I should say. It's a tactic that they continue to do is to push the emotional button. Blame game all the damn time. And it just doesn't work. But in this situation, she's getting all the negative attention she can. It's easy enough for us to ignore her at this point over here, but we can't ignore this situation only because it's here in front of us. It won't be soothed any other way. She is legally protected by the First Amendment, and she's maneuvering and manipulating left and right. Congress and of people are going to have to get more creative and have the lawmakers write the laws necessary in order to modify certain speeches. But the problem is, when it keeps going back to the Supreme Court keeps indicating that any restrictions from the government, regardless of local all the way to the federal, is not according to what the Constitution is and will be prohibited. Simply put, she's got the constitutional right to bellyache and bitch like crazy. As much anger and hatred and vile and vitritude that she's putting out there left and right. The problem is with this politician that Georgia put into office to represent them. They're saying to the rest of the country, look, we're going to be putting up all the stuff over here. So now it's allowing the other conservative states saying, look, we got to put in our own representatives over there to do the same damn stuff. So it's each member state and it's each voter out there to decide whether or not they actually want reality changed or not, or perception of reality. Case in point, state of California. Now, everyone's heard that state of California is going through a possible recall election. We had enough votes, actually we had enough ballots signed up to a certain deadline. We reached the limit. Now it's going to be up to the state of California to actually get this on the ballots. The candidates are lining themselves up left and right, both from the serious to the whack jobs. Whack jobs being one's using a bear and another one wants to make California into a country. I'll pick on the bear first because the other guy, one particular politician who wants to become governor is using a bear. He's doing a Cal Worthington commercial. He's using animals to represent either people or politicians. I don't know what the hell he's representing. All I know, he's bringing up Cal Worthington commercial of sorts. Here's this politician with his dog Spot, and it's actually a bear that they're using. Either a trained bear or they're using Photoshop on this one, an overlay. But he wants to make sure that he gets in there, so he's using a shtick for this one. Next idiot. This guy's already got into the other websites. He's already got his feet in the door, so he's trying to get more votes. And already when I saw him on the local news over here of Tribune Broadcasting out here in the Los Angeles market, I saw the political plug that they are required to put in. If any candidate happens to plug in for a office and they want to get exposure, they can petition the networks to give them airtime. It's the only way they're going to be able to get it out there, except for social media. But they need to get the exposure. So this guy decides to go for exposure. He puts his YouTube commercial out there. And he wants to have California turn into a damn state. Actually, a damn country. You notice I'm not telling which particular lunatics except for one meatball that I've mentioned in Congress. I haven't mentioned what state idiots we've got. I ain't giving them that much air either. But from what history has been telling us concerning about our country, Texas had tried to separate from the Union after the Civil War, and the court case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and everyone kept giving the thumbs down on this one because there has been no precedent, no amendment, no process for a state to leave the Union. Texas has been trying for years afterwards, and they still can't get it going. No matter how many times they keep trying to do this stuff, it's still not going to happen. Even now, we've got other states out there who are being fueled by the Trump mania right after the elections, thinking that the election's still stolen, so they got to follow the same damn lies. Well, this is following the meatballs left and right, especially when you're dealing with a guy who keeps claiming that California could be its own country. At one time in the election, I think either 2016 or 2020, they tried to put it back on the ballot again for the state of California. But it didn't work. They were going to be splitting off California into 3 chunks. Now, here's the other issue concerning about the state of California right now as it is. We have lost people over the past 10 years. Because of certain politicians happening these days and rising up taxes left and right. And then the COVID kicks in and then the job market goes crazy. People had to move out of California. The tally regarding the census had decreased California's population by so many numbers. That decreases the Electoral College, our elected representatives, even the political power that California once had. It also opens up California to probably a possible change of leadership in the parties. If there's enough demographics going on and there's enough popular density regarding a certain political party, then California may flip again, as they had a long time ago. And right now, a lot of people are still hoping for that, especially the conspiracy nut jobs, especially for the ones that want to make California back into a country again. Now, you did hear me say that, back into. According to history, and you can research this, find an old textbook, or Google the damn thing, or go to the libraries, but research the information on your own. California at one time was separated from Mexico and Spain and was its own separate entity for a short time, which meant it was a California Republic, they called it. That's why we have a lone star in our flag, because we were our own country. Much like Texas was trying to be its own entity after the Mexican War and before it got annexed into the federal government to become a state of the Union. Texas wants that again because they want to be a country, and it's not going to happen. California's not going to happen either. There has to be political processes going on, conventions going on, and then the information has to be sent over to the federal government through the House of Representatives and through the state. And in the House of Representatives, if I'm trying to remember my political science 101 at this point, they have to go through committees. If the committees say that California can split, it's got to go for the full floor vote. Then it's got to be sent over to the Senate. And right now the Senate is not too keen on anything. Not even separating California into chunks or making it a nation at this point. Even if they did, they'd be breaking apart a political entity they'd rather convert instead of keeping as a country. And if we happen to turn into a country, the state of California, we would have to be self-sufficient in our own survival. I mean, in anything and everything. without depending upon Arizona water or any produce or anything happening from other countries. We would have to be dependent upon our own devices to be a self-surviving entity. Now, here's the thing. Concerning about the countries we've got these days, over the past how many centuries has it been, about a millennium or less, that they try to be trading partners with each other so they can be more sufficient, but not self-sufficient. Self-sufficient would mean that they would be depending upon their own devices, anything and everything for their own resources to continue. California would have to find the minerals necessary to mine. California would have to do anything and everything, including sacrificing a hell of a lot, what we've got right now, to make itself self-sufficient. Turn its beauty, as it once had, into a wasteland of sorts. Of course, they could be doing trading partners and trade relations with other states, or actually with other countries, including the United States. But it's all hypothetical and it's all theoretical because it's not going to happen. Not in my lifetime, or sure as hell not in your lifetime. It would set up a dangerous precedent actually, regarding this. Because if one state actually did manage to secede, the other states will also secede, and there goes a union. Now, the reason why we had the 13 colonies try to link up with each other is to make themselves more stronger, combined, instead of separate. Now, we tried this, and people keep forgetting this. They keep forgetting their U.S. history. They keep forgetting the American history, world history, and how things work in politics. We had the 13 colonies. We had different areas called states. We were dependent upon countries for our goods. Mostly, it was all 13 colonies of England's empire. We had federal troops all over the place. Actually, we had British troops all over the place. But each state was trying to keep its own little sovereignty of sorts, their own trading with other countries. They had their own treaties with other countries. But mostly it had to go through England because this was English colonies. From Massachusetts all the way down to the Carolinas and Georgia. We haven't even put in Florida yet. Florida was still owned by Spain. Or it's like by Louisiana, one of those two. During that time, we got tired of being taxed to death of anything and everything without having representation into the House of Parliament to let them know that no, this was not acceptable. We need representation. But they wouldn't accept that in the first place. They just wanted to use us as a bank. Suck us all dry. Suck us beyond bankruptcy at this point over here, and then keep demanding more. Because they can. We had the war. We had a few dissenters who are still loyal to British. They were called Tories. But in the end, the 13 colonies won their freedom. Instead of making the Constitution of the United States, they made it Articles of a Confederation, which meant a loose federal mandatory policies we had in procedures and laws, but not very enforceable because each state was its own sovereignty. Let me repeat that. Each state was its own sovereignty, but we were a confederation. We were not United States of America during that time. We had Shays' Rebellion, which meant we had farmers. We had people who lived on lands getting their property hijacked by an eminent domain system here. The federal government went broke fighting the wars. They owed money to a lot of countries. Well, more than one is a lot of countries anyway. mostly to France. We had to pay them off. British still wanted to use us as a trading partner, but we're still going to be owing people money left and right. So we had to get the money somehow. We confiscated from those very same supporters who fought the wars. And because of that, we made our own citizens pissed off at the government system of its time. And the states couldn't do anything because what they're doing is the citizens were protesting in their own eminent fashion of getting guns from an armory, from a federal armory, and making the point across. They even hijacked a few federal buildings left and right. They wanted federal help. They didn't want the states' help, so the states weren't doing anything for them, except going with the banks and going with the creditors. So there had to be strong federal support, but there wasn't any, because there wasn't any precedent, there weren't any laws, there was nothing. Most of the power was in the states. But since the states weren't going to do anything, the people were going to revolt. The same ones who fought for independence from Britain, now they're seeing their own government being Britain all over again. What do you expect? They had to come up with a compromise. We made the great compromise, the United States Constitution. With a lot of self-checks and balances in the damn thing, and not to mention the amendment process over there to make it more stronger, more efficient in certain ways, in certain areas. Not to mention being more adaptive, because with the amendment process, we can make it more adaptive to the times, to the areas. Whatever we need the Constitution to be, that's what we're going to be amending, putting something in there. But there was a step-by-step process in order to get things going. So in the end, we had the federal government saying, enough's enough. Now we're going to make federal laws to protect the consumers, but also we need to get our money situated as well. Again, research, research, research. This is what happens when you have an old fart going into high school, actually going into college at this point over here, and learning more stuff that he barely remembered a long time ago. Because now a lot of things have a different perspective and different context, and I can understand it a lot more. With all of this legal precedent and all this legal information given to you, you're still confused and befuddled at this point. I don't blame you. Because a lot of people keep getting our history confused left and right in the political process. They haven't studied enough. They don't even know how to study this monster. Except going through the books, going through history books, different people's adaptations of what they think the history was, trying to sort it all out and see what it means. Especially when they have to go through college classes in order to get an in-depth study, because in those areas you have to go in-depth study to write reports and understand the process, which means you still have to do the research regardless if you go to a college class or not. You still have to understand it. For those people who are going through and actually watching this thing happen, the background information is more perspective and more context to be added, because now we're seeing the history happening before our eyes. That's why it's a little more profound for me, because I'm seeing this happen. But saying all of this, I'm still under the impression that for those who keep pursuing the course of government service, they have to understand they are the servant of the people that are electing them into the government position over here, because they want a representative, they want a voice in Congress. It's understandable. But a voice that actually helps out from the state, their own constituents, but also what's good for the country as well. When I keep hearing anti-Semitic crap coming from a congresswoman, I'll barely call her that one in the first place, she's equating masks with the Jewish Holocaust. Now, she knows better than this. She don't care. She's going for the emotional appeal, and it's winning. When you're going for the negative blows like this, you need all the publicity you can. And this is getting totally overblown. And she's lapping this up, laughing her ass off at the same time. Not to mention those in more direct control over her, shall I say, they're laughing their asses off more and more because the puppet is doing the damage. Even, and I'm going to say his name anyway, McCarthy is doing the same deed by not doing a damn thing. McConnell is doing his part by not doing a damn thing, but fighting against any kind of advancements or any kind of agendas we might need to get this country working again. So yes, you might call me a die-hard crybaby liberal at this point over here, or a libtard, be my guest. I've heard that kind of language, and I'm like, give me a frickin' break. You got to be better than that. Okay, you're a fucking asshole. I'm like, please. I've heard more comical suggestions than that. What are you trying to do? Use up something from the dead age again? You're raising up the dead here. Well, you're this and you're that. Well, you know, the thing is, you could tell me that might make me laugh is call me a fool and idiot. I'm a fool and an idiot. Deal with that one. I'm a lipdart that don't know his ass from a hot rock. How about that one? These are my thoughts. These are my observations at this point over here. And you know what? I really don't give a shit if anybody else has got a different one. They will. They'll say it, but they hadn't said it. They all avoid me like the damn plague because I am a plague. And I don't care. Because I'm the one trying to observe everything else that's happening these days, except for the conservatives losing their frickin' minds left and right. Especially when I keep seeing some of the other news media organizations having conniption fits over this damn thing. Now, the local news media doesn't understand. They can't do the political agendas at this point over here. They have to leave it to the nationals because the locals have to observe the news happening at that point over there and they have to report on it. But they're not there to make the political agendas because they don't have the political shows unless they've already got the political shows happening in their own little areas. It's usually up to the big boy national chains going after each other. And it's also up to social media to go after each other left and right. So this is where we are, boys and girls. We are exercising our First Amendment rights. We are exercising our rights in a democracy at this point over here. It seems to be threatened in one form, and another form think that this is democracy working at this point over here. Well, depending on your own point of view, is how the government is working right now. Is the government working? Or are we still butting heads at this point over here? And this is the form of our democracy right now. This is the basis of our government. If we wanted a different government similar to England at this point over here, we'd still have the issues that they would have. We would have a parliamentary system at this point over here. We would have the parties changing prime ministers left and right. Like I'd be changing my socks every few days. Don't get me on the damn shirt. I just put this damn thing on a couple of days ago, so it's not dead yet. Even though it should have been. That's an old one anyway. Last year's. Still works. Small, but still works. But still, if we had a parliamentary system at this point over here, we'd be dealing with the House of Parliaments, we'd be dealing with the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Now, if you want to do the comparisons of that one, compare the House of Lords to the U.S. Senate and the House of Commons to the House of Representatives. And keep this in mind, they switch off left and right when it comes down for prime ministers. Who's the controlling party can change the prime ministers by votes of no confidence. We don't even have that for the House of Representatives, and we sure as hell don't have that for our elected leaders. We decided to get our representative democracy going on, which meant in our republic we have a representation going on. We felt there was not enough adequate representation because they didn't give us any representation in England. Therefore, we've got our own little government, hybrid as it is, but still works. We have our Supreme Court. Well, theoretically, they do have a Supreme Court in England, but it's really not there. It's there, but it's not there. Confusing as hell. They don't have district, they don't have federals, they don't have the bureaucracy we've got set up over here. But that's them, not us. And we have an executive branch elected by the people. Now, to be put fairly here, the prime minister is elected by the people, but the people have to vote in the party. And then within the party members, they have to vote in the prime minister. But they still have the people to vote for the prime minister, especially when they happen to get a no vote of confidence. Conflicting and confusing as hell. Political science, you gotta love it. In our government here in the United States, every 4 years, we go through an election cycle. Now, before we actually had the 1930s and the 40s kicking in, because that changed the whole gambit regarding our election cycle there. We had presidents going in for theoretical unlimited terms, which meant if you still wanted a president for life, technically, it would have been done. It was said that President George Washington could have been a king, but refused it. He only did 2 terms, and it was struggling enough as it is for him. It was a major hassle. And he decided to retire to his own land. I know that's another Pandora's box we'll talk about later on that one. A lot of people still hailed him as a great American hero. Well, depending upon points of view, again, Pandora's box on that one. But the political process back then didn't come up with the terms. They didn't even put that in the Constitution. It had to be amended. So back in the 30s to 40s, actually 40s, we actually had a 3-term president, Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 3 terms. And then there had to be an amendment in there to make sure that we only had a 2-term. Every 4 years, we have an election, and then another election after that, and we set up for a new president after that. FDR died in office in World War II. So we had to have another vice president take over, according to the succession and the U.S. Constitution. Again, you can Google it, probably get me corrected on that one. I didn't think U.S. history and I didn't think U.S. politics meant a damn thing to me at a young age, coming out of school. But after hearing and seeing what the hell's been going on these days, shit, I missed a hell of a lot of good parties, that's for sure. Said before, I don't like what's happening in these days, especially when people keep screwing up the history left and right. When they say about something of anti-Semitism, comparing that to masks, I know I should have been covering this one here, and that would have been giving her a lot more fuel for the fire at this point. As I said before, legally she's got the right to say it. Regarding what the U.S. regarding what the U.S. House of Representatives says and the Speaker, that's a different story altogether because they have their own internal checks and balances in there. But as a citizen, she can say it. The problem is, the government can't take reprisals on her if she was like a U.S. citizen. And I'm quite sure, I am not quite sure how the office of the House of Representatives is going to be dealing with this. That's up to them, as I said before. But if she was just like a regular Joe Schmo, saying all that crap against the government, that's one thing. But she's saying it out loud to different people left and right. She's going to be opening up for consequences at this point. If she's going to be attacking people specifically, then she's opening up to civil lawsuits at this point. Now you're going to be asking me, am I a legal scholar? Nope, I'm a student. I got no letter. I'm still in college right now. So I am studying what I understand what's happening with the history, world history, U.S. history, California history, U.S. political systems, how each system affects each other. And believe me, over the past 5 years, it's convoluted and complicated as hell. And you think a kid in the school systems can deal with this shit? Back when I was growing up, it's way simpler back then than it was right now because we had simpler minds working at it. We couldn't figure out the complexity of the situation. They had to boil it down to a soup broth. Where's the meat? Where's the noodles? Where's the vegetables? Where's the chowder? But this is what's going on. So, I probably lost all of you. Good. If you kept up this long, my God, you guys got to be gurus. I'm not a guru. Am I a guru? Did I ever say I was a guru? I was never a guru. Did I ever say I was a guru? Honestly, did I say I was a guru? I don't think I was a guru. Did I say I was a guru?